Wanted this for a little troll.
Uh,
This is what it is. I've done the research. I've looked at the facts. I've analyzed the hard data, and my conclusion is that you're way more mad than I am right now. This guy
uh,
is working at like light speed, like looking up Wikipedia history. He's learning more about like Tamil history and Sri Lankan history just to be an
imagine,
asshole. Like
yeah, like
he's
my
learning out of spite.
that's a good point. Like that's actually a fantastic point. That's awesome. Like, listen, I'm glad we could
I'm
be of service.
glad. I'm glad you could learn.
I'm
Yeah,
glad you could
the data's in. By the way, you're way more
just
mad than we are.
take a step back.
Hi,
Uh,
Hamilton.
let's let's pull this back for a second, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about what what is going on in Sri Lanka right now, right? Okay. So what's happening right now is you have basically an economic crisis where uh, you have an economic crisis that is a result of the Rajapaksa's economic
Right.
mismanagement. And so one example is the Matala Rajapaksa International Airport that was built in the southern portion of the country using foreign, like borrowed money from China, right? And it ended
Right.
up it was such a useless expenditure that the airport was dubbed Forbes's emptiest airport, right? Like Forbes dubbed it the emptiest airport in the world because like it was so empty at one point they had to convert it into a rice silo.
Which is pretty
Create
crazy to think about in we're in Sri Lanka, where
exactly.
there's a
They
lot of
built it.
fucking people.
Actually, there isn't.
Really?
Sri Lanka is an island of about I think 15 million people.
Okay.
There's actually not, or 22 million people, excuse me. There's actually
Yeah, that's
not
not a
that many
ton.
people. Yeah, so it's not a highly populated area to begin with, right? So, and they built it in a town of like 8,000. So the southern tip of that country, right?
Right.
So that's where the airport was built, and the airport was built in a town of like 8,000 people. So that's one example of um. So that's one example of like reckless Hambantota right there on the southern coast. Like you saw it right there if you zoom in.
Oh, look who it is. Hey, Kat, if you're looking and you're able to, please go guns a blazing. Hey, can you recognize that word in between John Wedding and gazebo? This isn't what's up, what's up? Doing okay. Hold on. Some of these might be thank you. Some of these might be some of the people that we've seen before. So it might be a troll account that's knows you through us. It's all a good cat.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
Hambantota right there.
yeah, okay.
So Hambantota right there is
Yeah,
where the
it's really
airport was built.
small.
Exactly. So you can see how idiotic that expenditure was. Super small. Which they built it there. Oh, the reason they built it in Hambantota is that is the hometown of the Rajapaksa family.
Uh,
So
give me
that's
one
the
second.
home.
I'm just responding to chat. What's up? You're
Gotcha.
okay for right now. We do have some people that are coming in that are like definitely coming in under alts, like that one. So as long as you're not an ass, you're fine. But this
Ban
is
this guy
something that
too.
we've had. I'm gonna let him be for now until I see some.
Not what's up. The
No, yeah, I
Gazebo.
got no. Don't worry. Gazebo is a well-known person who likes
Hindu
to.
Makar Kachi just means Hindu people party. This
Oh,
is
okay.
idiotic. It's idiotic.
Yeah, you're good.
Like
You're good. What's up? Yeah.
is so it's
No,
so
like,
dumb.
so if this guy's doing this, it makes me think it's the same person you were talking about getting trolls. This person that has gazebo in their name actually has been like doing this to Mide and Cat's chat for like a month or two, like
It's
at
all
least
connected somehow.
regularly. That's what I'm
It,
saying. Like they might know you through us, and that they might be looking up Hindi slurs or Hindu slurs
yeah, but
just to.
Hindu Makar Kachi is like not even a slur. It just means Hindu. Like it's an actual party. I think
Got
in
you.
Tamil Nadu. It's like
And was up the topic right now? We're talking about Sri Lanka with our friend here, Arun,
yeah.
who has some direct familial and life connections to like some of the stuff that's going on, and he's going in. He's going to be hard explaining to me the dumb bimbo here.
Nah, you're not dumb. No. So basically, the Hambantota International Airport is uh, it's an example. It's an example of reckless expenditure. Another example is in the capital Colombo.
Okay.
Um, in the capital Colombo, there's something called the Lotus Tower that was built as well. Um, the Lotus Tower is also completely useless. It's a reckless expenditure, and it was
Okay.
never. So it was meant to be like a Burj Khalifa sort of thing, where it's like you got hotels, you got casinos, that sort of thing. It's
Oh, I
meant to
think
be
I've
like
seen this before. Yeah, I
Lotus Tower.
have. I've seen this.
Yeah, that's
It's
also
pretty looking.
it's pretty looking, right? But it's completely reckless.
Yeah, like
Like
no use.
it is a white elephant project, right? So
Got
that's
you.
one way that they messed up the economy of Sri Lanka, right? The another thing that they did is they basically Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president that just left, he forced uh, farmers to convert from chemical fertilizer uh, to organic fertilizer,
Yeah.
basically overnight. So
I
he's like,
remember
yeah,
hearing about some of this, I think.
right. So he basically forced that stuff immediately, and that destroyed their rice self sufficiency.
Right. Okay.
So they were 100% self sufficient on rice, but it destroyed that to the point where they had to start importing rice from other countries,
Really,
right?
that's insane when you're 100% self sufficient and then you have to rely on other countries.
Right. And so basically, in addition to that, what ended up happening was so they also slashed taxes across the board for the rich, so the upper class got all the wealth as well. Um, and they also did some more. They basically were as neoliberal as like conservative economics as you can get. Like it's or sometimes you would get like absolute embezzlement of the money as well, because uh, the former president Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the former prime minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, the former finance minister Basil Rajapaksa are all brothers.
Okay.
So they're all brothers. There's a lot of nepotism in the government. By the way, it's not just regards to the Rajapaksa family, but just in general, uh, uh, there's a lot of nepotism with regards to the Sri Lankan political system, right?
Sure.
It needs. To, we didn't talk about. I mean, so Tamil is just spoken in. It's it's spoken in my home state of Tamil Nadu, right? It's spoken in Sri Lanka.
So that's what I
It's
was gonna
spoken in,
ask because it looks like
uh,
Tamil people are in like the southern part of the subcontinent.
yeah.
Okay,
So they're both in India, Sri Lanka, and then there's a sizable minority in Malaysia and Singapore, because those guys were laborers that were brought over by the British, basically.
gotcha.
And there's also a bunch of Tamilians in South Africa as well, and in other places.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty spread out.
Which, to my
But
knowledge, a lot of ethnicities that live within the Indian subcontinent are right,
yeah, yeah. I don't know about that.
like Mongols,
Mongols are
Tamils.
not. Mongols are like
They
they're
no
not
longer
Indian.
exist, really, but
They're up in Mongolia. They're up like close to like Siberia, basically.
and just an FYI, like all of my knowledge about India and the subcontinent specifically comes from. I mean, to be fair, I learned a lot from it, but like comes from an Indian art history course. So I learned a lot about like how like it was.
You've probably heard of the term Dravidian architecture, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, Dravidian architecture stems from this area, from southern India. It just means, like, you'll notice the
Yeah.
language family Dravidian. That's the name of the word Dravidian. Also comes from it comes from Tamil. That's the name, right? The word
Okay.
Dravidian, it comes from the name Tamil.
It's gorgeous though. Holy shit. By the way, this is actually one of the things that I loved about Indian art history, and that was the course that I took. It was mind you, again, this was just a very basic course. It was one of our core requirements is to have an art history course, right? Or an art history course of some kind, or
Hmm.
art humanities rather. And I mentioned this, I think I might have mentioned it to you,
Hmm.
but I was actually just trying to get like Western European art and stuff because it's, the easiest comparatively.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to lie. Wow. Love these. Love them. Yeah, cat. Ban at will. I'm not going to say that. I don't know that.
It just like, that's not a slur. That just
Okay.
means Hindu nationalist. That's all that means.
Got you. But
What a loser.
no, it's a, yeah. I know you got it. But I'm just doing it as quick as I can. Not like they're going to say anything anyways because they're cowards. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, John?
Oh yeah, they're bitches.
Yeah, bitches, dude.
Absolute bitches.
But
Um,
was I wasn't meaning to take this course, but and I didn't. I've mentioned this before. I did not do well in the course, but motherfucker, that was not with a lack of trying. My professor was just an asshole on it. But what I will say that I learned a lot of, and that was just scratching the surface, but
mhm.
was just like just recognizing how much. Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you. But just recognizing like how diverse and like widespread and like Indian culture as a whole, or like Desi culture as a whole, is,
Yeah.
and like just like literally from. Sorry, I'm just also doing this right now. I'm turning off. Actually, my raids are already set up for that right now. Actually, cat. But like how diverse and how much has changed in like Desi culture in general, but also just like how much of it is and has been appropriated by like Western culture too. Like, I mean, so
Right.
much of like the yogis and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just, it's something that I'm fully aware that I don't know a lot about, but
Hmm.
is honestly just like so vast and so interesting. And I think you probably recognize that too as someone that's South Asian is like they're because they're
Right.
not rating, they're only following right now. But is just like why it's all I'm sure so hard already to like describe it to like Americans or like Western folk who just have no clue because so much of like South Asian art and architecture, while astounding, was often just viewed as like I know a big part of it was like they viewed it yeah. I'm okay for right now, but I'll keep it in mind. But like how like looking at like what I'm bringing up right here, this Dravidian temple architecture, just like so
Yeah.
colorful and so intricate. But I know that like a big part of how like a lot of culture got erased was like the Brits, and they viewed Hindu culture as like very like I mean I guess to
As heathens.
Christians, yeah,
Yeah.
as heathens because they viewed
Yeah.
it
We
as
were viewed
like
as heathens. Yeah. We were
they
pagans, basically.
yeah, as pagans because they I remember like looking into like the art and stuff and they were like, oh well, they're like sacrificing things to like this doll or a statuette or whatever without recognizing the much more like holistic view of Hinduism or recognizing like darshan, right? Darshan of like looking. Let me poorly explain this to my knowledge, right? Darshan is like see like being able to be seen by and seeing your God, right? Like
You mean,
there's
yeah, darshan. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, darshan. Yep.
right. There's like a big like point of being able to see and it to be able to see you, right? Like a big part of like sight and looking in something. It's just very interesting and like very different than a lot of like Western faith. I don't know. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm going off on a tangent, but like,
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, so we can talk about that later,
yeah,
but
that's
let's try
another
and
time. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. You go
yeah,
ahead.
no worries. Because I would in any other circumstance, I'd be like, let's
No, no,
fall
no,
down that
no.
pit. But
You
now
go.
it's
You
like
keep
now's not the
going.
time. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
I
you
want to
keep
like
going.
focus. I want to focus on Sri Lanka a little bit.
No,
Um,
I'm getting off topic by looking stuff up. So you keep it
Gotcha.
moving.
So we were talking about reckless expenditures by the Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the Rajapaksa regime, right? And them basically like some of them embezzling that money, the Rajapaksa family controlling Sri Lanka, everyone's all in the same family, right? So basically, the thing that's important to understand is that these guys were elected by the very same people that are protesting right now,
Right.
if that makes
That's a
any.
big part you were saying.
And that's the thing that is kind of glossed over a little bit. It's not uh it's not really said all that often to begin with, right? It's
Right.
yeah, it's not really said all that often, and the reason for that is uh like it's too much of an inconvenience to talk about. So, um
Right.
and this gets into the 25-year long civil war that Sri Lanka had. And Sri Lanka had a civil war from basically the 1980s to 2009,
Yeah.
right?
1983 to '09 is what I'm looking at here.
Yeah. So it started off with a massacre and it ended with a massacre,
Gotcha.
right? And so what this civil war was, it was a war. between the Sri Lankan government and the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, right? And the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam were a rebel group. They're a terrorist group
Yeah.
that killed a bunch of civilians. I do not endorse them. Like anyone that is watching, I am not an Elam supporter. I'm not a Tamil Elam, or I'm not a LTTE supporter. I'm not a Tiger supporter. Um, so the guy is Velupillai Prabhakaran, right? That's the leader, and it's basically defunct at this point. It's gone, right? Because the leader was executed, right? So basically, the whole point is the LTTE. Uh, they were fighting the Sri Lankan government to establish a separate state for the Tamils of the island, right?
Okay.
And there's two major ethnicities on Sri Lanka. There's the Sinhalese, right? And they comprise the overwhelming majority of Sri Lanka's population. And then the minority are Tamils, right? The Tamils
Okay.
are the minority, right? And there's multiple forms of Tamils, and then there's a third group called Muslims, right? Who
Sure.
are also Tamil speaking. They speak Tamil for the most part. So it gets complicated, but for right now, we'll just keep things between the uh the Tamils and the Sinhalese, right? Those are the two major ethnicities on the island, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're they've traded there's been cross pollination between the culture, but their origins are fundamentally very, very different from one another. Um, like a lot of Sri Lankan Tamils, their culture is far it's more in common with that of mainland Indian Tamil Nadu, like the Indian side, and right across the border with Kerala. So it's more in common with those two states than it is with the Sinhalese. And the Sinhalese actually originally come from what's now West Bengal.
Okay. You're good. Keep going. I'm dealing with these doofuses.
I'm really fucking sorry about this.
No,
I did
bro, it
not.
happens. It happens all the time. Listen, you get once you're gonna get used to it, especially you're brown. So like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
Champika Ranawaka is basically one of the guys that's like that threatened Tamils with uh he's one of the guys that threatened Tamils with like 100 genocides basically.
mm-hmm.
And he's like, one Mulivaikal was enough. We don't need 100 basically. So this he's literally trying to get under my skin, which is ridiculous. Like
Oh, this
um
guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
this guy, that psycho. Um
This seems to be a normal troll that I think is uh,
just
festering
he's
in our circles. Honestly, like I feel like this person is not like South Asian by any extent.
Yeah, I originally thought he was, but then after seeing a little more of what he has to offer, I'm starting to
Yeah,
understand. No,
because this
no,
person is like Cat brought up. Yeah, it happens to me too. It doesn't
he's
matter what I'm talking about. And this is
he's
like
he's
the
googling
gazebo
everything.
person. Yeah, exactly.
He's googling everything
He's
because
just trying so hard to be an annoying troll.
yeah, he's
And we've had this be a regular problem lately between Cat's stream, my stream, I think Minnie's, I think like most
oh, Minnie
everyone
knows. Yeah,
within our circles, there's this turd that's been going around doing this. And what's really frustrating about it is like I feel like they're probably under another account that we know, and we just don't know who it is. But then they do this type of stuff, and I don't know how they're still getting like enjoyment out of it. But like I don't know.
I mean, I mean, this person is a psycho, so we're not like
Yeah, I
we're
know.
like if you listen, Champika Ranawaka is if you have to go that far to like listen, Champika Ranawaka is like you don't know who this person is, right?
Yeah,
Like like if you have to go that far to troll someone with like this is like esoteric
yeah.
nonsense.
No, that's the crazy thing. The only different thing is that this guy puts in gazebo occasionally, which the only thing I can think of that like I know is like a gazebo meme is from like H3H3. And I have no clue why like that person like always puts gazebo in their name.
Yeah, it's
Also,
weird.
how do you make that many Twitch accounts?
Yeah, no, that's a good point because you have to like they try fucking with streams I mod for and streams I watch, not in y'all circles. It's annoying as fuck.
Yeah,
It's it's funny, like especially when they raid my stream and they're like,
nice. Keep them coming,
ah,
bud. I'll ban them all.
no, someone he came. This weirdo came into my stream and he's like, Madrasi food is poo, and Madrasi is a slur for South Indians. And it's like motherfucker, you never had South Indian food, then have you? Like it's not that hard. Uh,
I believe in you, Cat.
it's okay. So
Keep going.
moving
Don't
away
even
from
worry about them. I'll get them.
okay, yeah, I'm gonna start laughing just like once they start. Okay, so we were talking about Sri Lankan Civil War, right? Let me give me 1 second. My order just came in.
No, do that because I'm gonna run ads. Hail, it's that time. You know what's up. I'm gonna run ads. Seriously, Adric. If you want to avoid the ads, you can subscribe for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime, or use the ad blockers that Stream Elements has provided. Okay. I do that so that way we can turn off the pre-roll ads. So now's a great time to invite your friends, share on socials, all that type of shit. But also, if you want to support the stream, support the community, you can subscribe. I'm planning to put all subscriptions towards Nitro Boosts so that we can have a better Discord experience again. Very fun. Keep them coming, bud. Keep them coming. I'll ban them all. Doesn't matter. So much for IP bans, I guess, though. That being said, I'm gonna run the 1 minute ad break. Okay, I'm doing it now, and then we're gonna keep on talking about this shit without interruption.
Got it. I'm back.
All right, you're back. Cool.
We'll wait the 1 minute ad break, I guess.
No, I got you. It's only a minute long.
Gotcha. I mean, I think I'm subscribed, aren't I? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you should be good.
So where were we again before we got derailed?
I'm a kinkster because I talk about how you can be both kinky and A's. Yeah, I know. They're very upset. I think, Kat, honestly, I just think that they're into you. This person legit has like a thing for Kat. I swear. No cap. They keep on putting up like Cat, like they try to do like shipping them and stuff. And it's really funny.
It should do be wild sometimes.
It do be, dude. It's
It do
very
be wild.
silly. It's very silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, keep it going.
So we were talking about the Civil War, right? So it's a civil war between this. It's a war between the Tamil Tigers and the Sri Lankan government. Now, the reason this war happened in the first place is because look at Google Sri Lankan or Tamil pogrom Sri Lanka, right? There's like
Okay.
several pogroms
There were
that happened.
pogroms.
Yeah. What? There are decades of pogroms done against the Tamils in Sri Lanka, right? So basically, what happened during the British is the British actually favored Tamils when they were like appointing people to positions, right, over the Sinhalese. So they
Okay.
did that to specifically racially antagonize against the Sinhalese. And so a lot of politicians decided to levy that anger that desire for revenge against the Tamils of the island, right? The 1958 is just one of them. There are four major pogroms against the Tamils over several decades, right?
Gotcha.
And the largest one is Black July, right? So Black July is the largest one, and basically what happened was at this point the Tamil Tigers have been established, right? And they kill a bunch of Sri Lankan soldiers, right? Um, and basically what happens is, uh, actually, I want to send you one link. I want to send you one link right quick so you can play this on stream, just so you can understand like this is a genocide that has been happening for a long time, and people don't want to acknowledge this, right? So one thing that was important that happened was in 1981. So the cultural Tamil capital has largely been what in the city of Jaffna, right? Um, so Jaffna is like the cultural capital of the Tamils of Sri Lanka, right?
I
And
just
there's a public library
repeat that
there
last
that
part
held.
just because my audio went out for a second.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said just repeat that like last little bit just because my audio went out for a second.
So Jaffna, so you can Google Jaffna. Jaffna is like the cultural capital of the Tamils of the island, right? And
Okay.
there's a library there called the Jaffna Library that had lots of like priceless cultural artifacts. So let me give you an example of like what's like. So one thing about the Tamil culture, I think more than any other culture, right? And like I've talked to other people of other cultures and just got a sense of like what is important in their culture, right? For Tamils, it's like I don't think any other culture comes close. The language is the most important thing,
Okay.
right? It's the most important thing in the culture, like by far, right? So much like we have people whose names are like Tamil Chelvi, Tamil Selvan, Sen Tamarin, right? We have people who are named after the language. That's how important it is, right? Like
Sure.
so it's so there were priceless artifacts like poems. There was a artifact which is a palm leaf manuscripture of one of the oldest books in Tamil history, which is the Tirukural, which is poems, priceless artifacts written on palm leaf manuscriptures in Ole Chuvaris, right? And basically, what happened was in 1981, the Sri Lankan police, backed by fascist mobs, went into the Jaffna Library, which held all these artifacts, and burned it to cinders. They burnt it down to the ground. And I sent you the
So
library
Black
of that.
July makes sense because in a lot of ways it's like the Kristallnacht.
It is. So Black July is a separate thing from
Oh,
the
okay.
Jaffna Library. So this happened. The burning down of the I sent it to you in DMs, but the
Yeah, let
burning
me take
down
a
of the
look.
Jaffna Library happened in 1981. Black July happened in 1983, 2 years after. Actually, the killing of the Sri Lankan soldiers happened in response to the burning down of the Jaffna Library.
Hold
Right? That
on. Let me do this real quick.
there's no
So
TOS.
no, I know. That's well, I don't know, but what I was going to do here. You've probably already seen it, so that's whatever. I'm just gonna put it on here so you can kind of like go along with it.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, I'm looking at your screen right now.
Yeah, but that way you can look on Discord, so it's in real time, so you're not delayed.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
Every building and every
Yeah, so you
monument
can
in
like
Jaffna
go
has been
like
scarred
yeah,
by
basically
battle.
this is like some of this area is like war torn at this point. It's like
None more than the
this is
town's public
2009
library.
basically, right?
Okay.
And I think this
Although
is
the
shortly
physical
after the
damage
Civil
has now
War,
been
right?
repaired, what
So
happened to
Jaffna
this beautiful
is
building
somewhat
nearly
it's
30
still
years
standing a
ago
little bit.
helped spark Sri
Um
Lanka's civil war.
but then like you have neighboring cities like Kilinochchi which have been completely reduced to rubble.
Right.
Mulivaikal
Locals
is
treat the
where
library
like
with reverence.
100 like thousand people died They were massacred, raped, and mutilated, and then they were killed by the Sri Lankan army. Um, and you have like mass graves in the north and the eastern parts of the country, just to give you an idea of how fucked the situation was. Um, and the thing is, so I want to like go off on a slight tangent, and I'll bring it back. The fact that I'm a Tamil person speaking about this will immediately get me branded as an LTTE supporter because I'm criticizing the Sri Lankan government not just for the economic decisions that they've made. That's okay to criticize them over that. What's not okay to criticize them over is all the war crimes that they did, right? In the eyes of a lot of people that are protesting. It's not okay to do that
Right, because
because
they participated.
they participated in that, right? They voted for those guys,
They
right?
voted
If I
and
say
carried out that shit.
exactly, exactly. So they don't want to acknowledge their sins. They don't want to acknowledge their crimes against humanity, that they were part of this, right? That they did all this. They don't want to acknowledge that. Or worse yet, some of them actually supported that. Some of them were like, no, like, of course these guys needed to die. Like, Sri Lanka
Right.
needs to be a Sinhalese state. Are you joking? Like, because the thing is, it's fascism. It's fascism that this is like what happens when fascism takes root,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
This is what happens when fascism and like extreme right wing lunatics take root, right? Like the thing is, for decades on end, all the politicians in Sri Lanka were catering to the most fascist right wing elements of Sri Lanka, basically, right? Whether and it's not just the Rajapaksa government that was doing this, right? Rajapaksas are the most brutal in recent history,
Well, to
but
give you just a quick aside, but like if you're looking on my my stream and just a
right,
comparison, talking about like fascists, right?
yes,
Specifically, let's talk about American fascists in this instance and relate it.
yeah,
This tweet is really great because it's, and I've seen other cognitive dissonance, right, which is a huge aspect of fascism. I swear to God.
yeah. Because they're not interested in consistency. They're
No,
interested in,
fascists don't care about consistency
they don't
ever.
care. They want power.
Yeah, and when
Fascism is, I'm oversimplifying this, but fascists are basically just bullies that never grew out of their bully phase.
I mean, yeah,
To a certain
because
degree, yeah.
it's all about like what we can do to the others to win, to beat
Yeah.
them,
Can I,
and
how can I assert myself over someone else?
right, not about like what policies or anything like that. And the reason why I
Exactly.
bring this up because policies and words are meaningless to fascists.
Yeah. Violence is what's meaning is violence
Exactly.
is
Yeah, that's
violence
the
is the
only
only thing that
thing.
matters.
Violence and like some form of masculinity, right? Like because that's often what's associated with it. But like
Exactly.
r slash conservative here, and people were loud, like conservatives on Reddit can't figure out why the GOP voted against contraception. And they're like, okay, my ignorance is showing. I'm looking at HR 8373, having a difficult time reading it because all I hear is Nancy Pelosi's shrill voice. Oh my God, as if she were reading the dang thing. But why would anyone vote against the bill? This was the bill codifying the protections of contraception. They've like, I've been a conservative my entire life. And even I would support something that ensured that a contraceptive was available to anyone who wanted, they say in quotations, actual family planning services. Are people concerned that abortions would be considered contraceptive? Is it a gateway drug kind of situation? I've got to be missing something here. Insightful thoughts, whatever. And people, they're like, birth control literally prevented more abortions than any other entity, hands down.
Yeah.
And like they're talking about this, and they're like, it's very much of like, and are we the baddies type of moment? You know what I mean? Of like, they're like, why are they doing this? And I literally had conservatives saying like, that's not gonna happen. Literally, as they were passing bills to make like contraceptives inaccessible. And obviously, there's a very different scale of violence here, what we're talking about in Sri Lanka to here. But what I'm getting at specifically is
The
these are
underlying the underlying feeling is the exact same.
yeah,
The underlying
exactly.
emotion is exactly the same.
They're
No, the
wondering
difference
why the consequences of their actions are coming to fruition, but they
is,
don't realize because their whole like idea is taking something away from somebody else, not actual policy.
yeah, they don't care about like good governance. Like that's not something that's relevant to them, right? They don't care. They're fundamentally broken people that want to, they want to, you know, feel good about themselves, and so they, it's like this weirdo, right? Like they
Yeah,
want to, yeah, it's like they're fundamentally broken people that keeps rating your stream or following your stream. They're
yeah,
fundamentally broken people that want to feel good and they're chasing a high. It's that simple.
yeah.
The problem is that high is temporary, and then a
And
lot
the
of these
effect
idiot
isn't.
foot soldiers, the moment a fascist government comes into office, their lives are not going to get better immediately.
I know. Don't
Uh,
even pay attention to
yeah,
it. I'm
yeah,
gonna
I know,
probably
yeah.
turn off
No, I
sound
got you.
like
No, I got you.
Cat brought up. I know, but I don't want
I'm
you to
gonna.
get distracted by
I
this.
removed your chat for a second, so I'm not looking at
Good.
chat. Um, yeah. So, by the way, actually, no, that's a good example. I'm glad. Wait, thank you. Actually, thank you for following. Actually, because the Bodubala Sena, um, is actually a fascist organization. They're the core power base of the Rajapaksa family. See, this was helpful. Thank you. Um, so
Oh,
the
look at you! You
Bodubala,
did something once.
yeah, you actually helped with the discussion. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, so the Bodubala Sena are basically like the brown shirts of Sri
Sure,
Lanka. They're a lot of them are Buddhist monks, but basically
but
the most
Nazis.
important they're
Sorry.
Nazis. They're Nazis. Yeah, they're Buddhist Nazis. Basically, they're just monks that are Nazis. Basically, it's a wild thing to say, but if you're
No,
from
I
this part of
mean,
the, even in India to a certain degree, like Buddhists are actually have a
first
different
off,
connotation.
I
Yeah.
know that Buddhists. Listen, I know a lot of Buddhists, or overall, I would say compared to most religious people, probably some of the less zealous. But I know Buddhists themselves have a not clean history.
Oh, they don't. No, if you Tibet is an example.
Yeah, I was gonna
Myanmar
bring
is
up
another.
Tibet. Yeah, Myanmar.
Myanmar
Like,
Myanmar is another great example, and great example is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is also like really violent history of Buddhism, right? The kind of like monks are literally openly like violent. They're openly militant monks,
yeah.
which is absolutely insane, right? To a Westerner, it's like, wait,
Oh,
Buddhist monks that are like militant?
real quick, give me a moment. Hey, Prodigy, what's going on, bud? Good to see you here. I did want to bring up a mention to you. I don't know. I'm sure you probably saw some of this, and we've been getting a lot of these from that like does this with cats stream all the time and so many others. I don't know if there's any like thing you can do with Pasadabot, whether like with IP banning or whatever. I don't know how they're getting around it, but this motherfucker, John Gazebo, has been coming through, and this is not their first time, but they've been definitely doing this to a lot of our streams, and they're going the extra mile and using fucking Google Translate to try and be the most racist they can to South Asians today specifically. Twitch is very smart and lets them keep creating. Oh, isn't very smart, I'm guessing, and lets them create accounts and following. Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to mention it. I know you were probably already on top of it, but I wanted to mention. Anyways, keep going, Arun. Sorry.
What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, Buddhism. Yeah,
Yeah.
militant Buddhism. Um, uh, so, so basically, the Bodhibala Sena are they're basically like they're
Thanks,
like
Prodigy.
insane. Prodigy, could you do the same thing from my channel as well? Just that'd be great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Prodigy, as always.
Uh, there we go.
Prodigy
Yeah,
is a
'cause
real one. Can we also just like I know I don't I know I already have given you compliments already, but I really do mean it.
let me
Sorry
go
to
to my
interrupt.
channel. No, yeah, no worries. I figured like this is a good time as ever to,
Yeah,
set up new
Prodigy
stuff.
is a real one. Literally from keeping all the bullshit out of our chats, but also literally keeping an eye on chats like all the time from your chatterino, I'm guessing, to Prodigy is the best. To literally like when I was having an epic fail moment when one of my mods, who I love very much, but slept in because they were sick, literally is like, "What do you need help with? Let me make it happen." And I love that about Prodigy, and we
Yeah,
love them. So I always want to like, Prodigy puts in the work. So thank you so much as always. Anyways,
gotcha. Also, one other thing, could you also do that in my channel as well? Like like it's ArunAnnow. It's me again. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
let me
names in the
shout
chat.
you out just in case.
Yeah. Um.
Hi
So,
Tina, welcome in.
hey Tina, how's it going?
We're talking to Arun about Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Anyways, keep going. Sorry, I know I'm breaking because of the chat and stuff. So
So basically, for like decades and decades on end, uh, you've basically had this strain of Sinhalese nationalism in Sri Lanka,
okay,
and what's been going on is Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism in Sri Lanka, right?
okay,
And so for decades on end, they've been doing like a lot of the fascist elements, not all Sinhalese, obviously. I just want to be clear about that. I'm not like one of those psychos that thinks like Sinhalese people are bad, but the fascist elements have basically been they've been killing the minority Tamils on the island, right? And so the this all blows up in Black July,
right,
right? Where basically the uh what ends up happening is the so I said like I said the government sorry the Tamil Tigers basically kill a bunch of Sri Lankan soldiers, right? And oh yeah, you were showing the Jaffna library as well. So
yeah,
we can go back to that video right quick, just to give you an idea
yeah,
of how like the scale of violence of what's going on here. We went off. So we were talking about like
Bricks. Almost as
the
though it was some
violence that
kind
was
of
happening in
temple,
Sri Lanka,
like
right?
library, almost
And
60 years ago,
basically, the
with membership
violence that
number
happens in South Asia done by
470.
fascists, right? It's more just openly mask off than it is here in the United States. Because in the U.S., fascism is just like this kind of fascism is not openly accepted, right? It's just like
right.
people openly calling, like you
Not
can't go on,
yet. You're not looking
not yet,
forward enough.
not yet, not yet, not yet. We'll just give it a couple years or so.
Yeah,
Um, but basically, what happened was like the violence of this scale and the genocide, like the pro genocide of this scale, right? That sentiment that hasn't been accepted here in the United States as of yet.
what I will say, I mean, because the event, at one point it was. I
It
will say
was
the best thing that happened to the U.S. In regards to like ideology and stuff is the World War II nationalist identity against fascism. But I feel like that veneer, and that's what it
right.
was, is definitely failing, right? Like as it because it was an extremely popular ideology even in the U.S.
Right. So sorry to cut
No,
you off
keep
here.
going, keep going.
So sorry to cut you off. This is the Jaffna Public Library that was burned down by the Sri Lankan cops
Right.
and basically Sinhalese majority cops and the Sinhalese fascists of Sri Lanka. And they basically burned down thousands year old cultural artifacts, right? Like priceless artifacts we're never gonna get back, right?
Yeah.
This is a yeah, they did this because those were cultural artifacts of Sri Lanka and uh And the Tamils, basically, those are of South India and the Tamils, right? Those were priceless cultural artifacts, um, and we're never gonna get them back. And that's why. So those things right there that were tied up by like strings and stuff, those were palm leaf manuscriptures, right? Those were like banana leaf manuscriptures, right? And we're never gonna get those back, right? They're gone forever, right? So that's the thing, right? Those priceless cultural artifacts are gone. And they did that to basically do a cultural genocide. They did this because those were Tamil, right? So that's basically that's what these guys were doing, right? That's what these nationalists were doing. They were, they were committing cultural genocide. And on top of that, they were, sexually assaulting women and children. Trigger warning. By the way, you might want to add a trigger warning to this whole discussion because we're really going to get into the weeds here.
Sure.
And some of the stuff that I'm about to say is super upsetting. So, but unfortunately, I think that stuff needs to come to light because without understanding the horrors of what happened, right, you won't really understand
Yeah,
like the
let me add
depths of
trigger warning.
inhumanity. Yeah. You won't understand the depths of inhumanity of what
What
happened in
should
Sri
I
Lanka.
give the trigger warning? Like, what should it be called?
Trigger warning, violence, or not trigger warning, genocide. All right,
Okay.
you can't put genocide in the title. You can't do that.
Oh, I can't, can I? Yeah.
You can't do that. I would honestly just say trigger warning in general.
Yeah, I'll just say trigger warning.
Yeah, I don't think you're actually allowed to put any of that in the title.
I know it's really annoying when like I want to cover topics like school shootings or whatever else too. It's so
Can add as
annoying
can
because
add
I
as
can't put
text
that in the title.
can add as text in OBS maybe. On
Oh,
screen that
I could
is.
do that. Yeah, I could do that. I will do that. Give me a moment. And Prodigy, I'm gonna make sure you do have bot support for Stream Elements, but I did pause the alerts. So, anyways, keep going, bud.
So basically, you saw those things that were tied up by the strings, right? Those were palm leaf manuscriptures that were permanently burned down, right? And then that basically led to Black July. So what
Okay.
happened was in Black July, uh, uh, the the Tamil Tigers, which have been established at this point, attacked Sri Lankan soldiers. Now, in retaliation, the fascist mobs of Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan Sinhalese nationalists, what they do is they basically get voter rolls from the government. So this is the location of addresses of everyone. And what they do is they basically specifically target the homes, the shop and the shops of Tamils, right? Tamil-owned shops, Tamil-owned homes, right? And they basically burn down Tamil-owned homes, burn down Tamil-owned shops, sexually assault Tamil women, Tamil children, and they slaughter like thousands of people, right? Now in the north, vice versa happens. So the Tamils do the same to the Sinhalese, right? Because they do that in retaliation, right? Um, Now this is basically the event that kicks off the Sri Lankan Civil War, right? Now the thing is, the Sri Lankan Civil War happens for 25 years, right?
That's
And
insane, by the way. Like, I don't think just people recognize how long that is, like, for a civil war, that's insane.
it's because yeah, for reference, our Civil War lasted like what? Like the American Civil War lasted how long again?
It was just a few years. Let me double check, though. I forget.
It lasted 4 years.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, because the
American Civil War
Confederacy is
lasted
not even
4 years.
old.
Yeah. Like yeah, the American Civil War only lasted 4 years. This lasted 25,
That's insane. I could not even
right?
imagine the amount of life lost.
Right. No, hundreds of thousands of people died on an island that's not that populated to begin with.
Right.
So basically, this civil war runs for 25 years, and Sri Lanka basically has the backing of every country on the planet. So the U.S. Backs the Sri Lankan military. India backs the Sri Lanka. India's involvement in this is also horrendous, right? They also send their they also send peacekeeping forces to subdue the
Peacekeeping.
tigers, but then they also like sexually assault women and children and kill
Of
them as
course.
well.
And I hate saying
So,
this, but that is also like it's a thing that we've observed in a lot of wars. Not
oh,
saying that they're good or bad for that. They're obviously
oh,
bad.
oh, wait, you want to know something? There's an Indian army official when asked about all the about all the sexual assaults that they did to the Tamil women. They're like, sweetheart, this happens in the war. They're
Yeah.
like of course, like sweetheart, this always happens. There's nothing wrong
Oh,
with it.
yeah. That's not my take, by the way.
Yeah, no, I know that's not your take,
I
but
know, I
like,
know, you know. I'm just clarifying, just an FYI. Just because it does always happen and it is a normal thing about war, war is just like not good in the first place and shouldn't be happening. And
exactly.
especially the rapes involved, which were a very common norm, especially in U.S. culture. Reminder during World War II that the Japanese imperial forces also had comfort women, and that when the Americans came through and killed all the Japanese people, they didn't just like set them free or anything. They did the same thing to them, but with probably more brutality and force, potentially.
Yeah, I DM'd you a Wikipedia article called "Sexual Violence Against Tamils in Sri Lanka." You don't have to read any of it. Just look at the size of that. By the way, just look at the size of that. This is starting from 1958, and it goes up until 2021. By the way, so
Sorry,
last
guys.
year.
I just, I'm listening to you. I just turned that on and off again. Then it just, of course, kept going. I was just looking at something Prodigy sent me, and then I decided to resume alerts, and that was a poor choice. But yeah, sexual violence against Tamils in Sri Lanka.
Just look at the size of that. Just look at the size of the scroll bar and look at the
Yeah,
date, 1958 to 2021.
classy.
Very classy. Perpetrator, Sri Lankan Armed Forces. Go up, go up, go up. Wait, that'll give you an exam. That'll give you a great idea. Yep.
Yeah, all these
Elam War One.
pogroms.
All these pogroms, and then the war, and then you still had people afterwards committing like those rapes again. Like that's how like prolific the sexual assaults toward Tamil women on the island were. And on top of that, there were forced sterilizations of women and men in of Tamil women and men on the island as well. So there's also that to keep in mind. Um, so basically, this is like this is like scroll up to the top, and then you'll see like what the Sri Lankan army official said in response to accusations of sexual assault. It's probably the most disgusting thing that you'll read. It's one of the most disgusting things, all the way up to the top. It's at the
Okay.
bottom of the it's at the bottom of the preamble.
Our boys are taught to hate the tigers. They see them as disgusting animals, not fit to live. I am 200% sure that they didn't rape Tamil women. Why would they fuck them if they hate them so much? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, bro. By the way, this
Yeah.
is like what normal rapists say, by the way. It's just like not just like military war rapists, but just like all rapists.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's part of their whole thing because they want you to feel like like they need to be attracted. By the way, your attraction to you has nothing to do with their want to rape you, by the way, like, or rape someone. I don't want to say you. That's
Yeah.
probably very uncomfortable hearing.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's a power thing, as always.
That's literally it is about that is what rape is. It is about power. It's about asserting power.
Which is why it's also always important to like. Thank you, by the way. Let me add that too. Actually, let me like you were saying. You can keep talking, by the way, Arun.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I'm just
So
adding a content warning right now.
so that's basically that also gives you a decent idea of like the kind of trauma that has been engendered into an entire population. My mod knows somebody that is of Sri Lankan Tamil origin that lived in Chennai. So my mod lives in Tamil Nadu in Chennai, right? Um, and basically so basically that family, whenever they go visit other families within the area, right, just as a family, what they end up doing is the guy of the family, there's one son, he checks all the hiding spots. He like whenever they go to a house to like visit friends and whatnot, right? They check all the houses, right? Or they check all the hiding spots of the house because because he came from Sri Lanka and it's just been ingrained within him, right?
Right.
It's like a tick that he can't help, right? But he looks for all the hiding spots so that he can stuff his sisters inside if he needs to.
That's crazy.
That's the kind of trauma that happens at a generational level when this is the kind of normality that happens in Sri Lanka. Thank you, Night Wolf. Night Wolf is back.
Thank you, Nightwolf. That'll be helpful.
Yeah, I was here to like block the other stuff, right?
Yeah,
The ultimate
apparently I sent a Castia slur earlier, so that's great.
he said sandal basically. It's no big deal. Twitch
No,
doesn't
I
give
know.
yeah, Twitch does not give a shit about all
No, of
that. Like
course they don't.
they couldn't be asked, they couldn't be arsed to give a shit about any of that, right? Um like that's a whole nother thing, right? Um but yeah, this is the kind of uh, this is like the sexual violence that happened towards Sri Lankan Tamil women for decades on end, right? So that's what's been happening for a long time, right? So the other thing that happens is that's one end of the Civil War. The other end of the Civil War is 2009, which is the more relevant, or it's more relevant to like the discussion that's happening right now, because at that point in time, towards the end of the Civil War, Mahinda Rajapaksa, who was the former prime minister that just left, is now president of Sri Lanka, right? He's now president of Sri Lanka. He's elected president of Sri Lanka. And he's elected on the promise of, I will deal with the tigers at all costs. No
Gotcha.
compromise, kill them all, right? And in this case, tigers is just a euphemism for Tamils,
Tamil people,
right?
right? Of course,
It's
because
just there's no differentiation between Tamils and tigers,
yeah,
right?
or globalists and Jews.
Exactly. That's basically what's going on
It's
here.
a dog whistle. That's all it
It's a
is.
dog whistle, 100%. And so, towards the end of the Civil War, what ends up happening is uh, you have these no-fire zones that are set up across the northern parts of the island, right? And um, what ends up happening is these no-fire zones are uh, they're they're basically there to prevent either the tigers or the government from firing into those zones, right? So it's meant to be civilian zones. Now, guess what ended up happening? You're gonna love this one. Sri Lanka. So first of all, what happens in these no fire zones, these NFZs, is um, they set up like civilian camps, right? And I'm gonna give you an example of what kind of stuff happened at the camp. These camps are right next to uh, so these camps are right next to basically schools and stuff, right? And there's, let me give you an example story. So there's a boy, 6-year-old boy, who is shot in the leg. And the only way to save that boy's life is to amputate the leg. They have to cut the leg off. But because it's a makeshift hospital camp, there's no anesthesia, right? There's no anesthesia going into the camp. So what they do is they basically have to, there's no real like medical supplies there, right? So they have to cover the boy's mouth and slice the boy's knee off, or they have to slice the boy's leg off with a kitchen knife.
Jesus Christ.
That's the kind of shit that happened in Sri Lanka. That's the kind of shit that happened in these no fire zones. Absolutely horrific, harrowing shit that happened in Sri Lanka. And the thing is, the maddening, the most infuriating thing about this is, people were like, all right, cool. Like, they're like, oh, the Sri Lankan government, you guys, I mean, the West, at least, the West, at least were like, hey guys, like you guys are doing really bad stuff, right? Other countries were like just completely wholesale siding with Sri Lanka, and that's infuriating, right? And like, oh, and another thing is like, the Sri Lankan government also, during this time when these no fire zones were set up, right? They basically prevented some food and aid from entering these no fire zones.
Of course.
They delayed it as long as possible so that these areas could not get the supplies that they need. Because they also wanted to starve them, right?
Right.
And then before that, right, there were NGOs in Sri Lanka that were providing the government their coordinates. And these were largely in the northern parts of the country. And basically, the Tamil people there were like, hey, please don't leave because we will be shelled into oblivion. They were begging the NGOs, hey, don't leave. We need witnesses. We need witnesses. People are going to kill us. People are going to kill us, right? And then the Sri Lankan government told the NGOs, yeah, if you don't leave, your safety is not guaranteed. They basically threatened the NGOs. They're like, get the fuck out of here or we'll kill you, right? And so they forced the NGOs' hand, and then all the NGOs had to leave. And then promptly after, the government basically shelled those cities and killed those people. So that is an example of like the depravity that happened for over like a year, basically, right? And basically this all culminates in the Mullawaikal massacre, right? So the Mullawaikal massacre is the thing that ends the civil war. And it was the mass killing of, they say tens of thousands. It's actually more, upwards of hundreds of thousands of people that died. And by the way, your average town in Sri Lanka is 100,000 people. So
That's
at least
insane.
an entire village was killed.
Right. Multiple, probably, at least.
Multiple villages were just completely wiped off the
Also,
face of the planet.
FYI, thanks to Nightwolf, because I can see him going through and adding literally a mixture of Hindu, or like, you know, like Hindu and other like Indian dialect words. Obviously, there's a lot of different South Asian languages, as we've already discussed, but going through and banning all of the ones that he can think of, including adding digital like leet speak and stuff to them to like spell out the words. And he's just
doing that on my channel. Yeah,
he's just going through. He's just going through and adding them all. And you know what? I gotta say, and this is shout out to Nightwolf, by the way, who does also stream himself. But
yeah, he's a fantastic moderator.
Nightwolf is such a good guy, and by guy I mean this as in the sweetest way possible. A young dude with a full life ahead of him. and he's way ahead of like so many other people. Because like Nightwolf is a fucking Zoomer Indian kid out here fighting the good fight
1000%.
and had like worked himself up from like, I know you are Nightwolf and that's why we love you. And honestly, Nightwolf was it is only still currently my only like Indian mod and it's such a cool thing because like I love knowing that I have mods all over the world, but also like, you know, putting their culture and like knowing things that I just don't, right? Like in regards to like people coming in here like they were earlier, right? Saying this type of shit. And I would not even know better if it wasn't for you or for Nightwolf and shit like that. And so I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to say like I love him for that, and he's a good dude.
We should also shout out Beer Bash Johnson because like if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't like met Nightwolf in the first place.
You wouldn't what?
I wouldn't have met Nightwolf if it wasn't.
Oh, really?
Basically, I actually first talked to Nightwolf on Beer Bash's like stream. Like I was talking to Beer Bash.
Right. I didn't get his fucking tag right. Either go ahead. You were saying?
Yeah, I was just saying like if it wasn't for him, like I had like like we were talking about Sri Lanka and then we were also talking about Indian politics, right? And then Nightwolf decided to join in.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah.
No, I mean
so,
Nightwolf like, just found me regularly, and then he kept on coming by and made him a mod, and he's a great guy. And
fantastic dude.
I love that he's a young dude who has a really great head on his shoulders and really fucking worked his ass off to be where he's at just right now.
Yeah, he's way younger than me, and like he's probably like he's more progressive than I was at his age.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and he's very progressive for just like his area. Like
he's very
like
progressive. He's from fucking Bangalore. He's like insanely progressive for his area. Yeah, and he's like that young as well, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to shout that out. I know you know. Yeah, he's from Bangalore. He's very like like boy literally has started to like put your shit out there, Nightwolf, but like has not had much help in regards of the family situation and has been like working his ass off and somehow did not come out a fucking stingy, like embarrassed millionaire conservative talking about like, well, if you just work hard one day, and this boy is like a teenager and talking about like women's rights in India.
Yeah, 1000%. Yeah.
So and he knows English very well. Like,
yeah, 100%.
So I just always want to shout that boy out. He's a sweet dude, and yeah, I know you got to do what you got to do, but we love you, Nightwolf. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, of course. I know, I think I've already mentioned this. He's also a mod on my channel because of he's a mod on my channel because of his Hindi knowledge. He speaks Hindi. No,
and that's super, like, he was just always here. I didn't even know that. I don't think I knew he was Indian for a good bit. And then it told me, and then just like slowly, as I started realizing, I'm like, what, dude, you're like 19, 18 in fucking India. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Like young teenage dude. Yeah, by the way, 2 years ago, I didn't know even a bit of English. What the fuck? Shut up, Nightwolf. But put some effort and learn English. Dude, your English is so good. Shut the fuck up.
It's all about exposure, honestly.
No, and that's what I love, though. Like, again, this is like an aside, but like, what a beautiful thing sometimes is that you're able to get like mods and like regular chatters from different places. And like, it would have never, like, I've talked about this a lot, but like one of the big revealing moments for me of like oh, this isn't just like a me thing anymore, or like my stream is beyond me, was when I was really fucking depressed, and it was right after I got back from dropping off my ex in Portland, and I was very low energy and was struggling to get back going on, and I was feeling really like my stream wasn't where I wanted it to be, because I was gone for a month. People weren't coming in as they used to, all that type of shit. And somebody messaged me, and it was a person that was Palestinian and lived in Palestine, in Gaza, I believe, but lived in Palestine nonetheless. That I know for sure. And they were like, "So are we gonna talk tonight, like we talked about?" Like, because it's like 2-3 a.m. for me, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I forgot." And I'm like, "I'm gonna be live shortly," and it was just the recognition of like, "Oh, this stream isn't just like me just pissing in the wind anymore." You know what I mean? Like this
Right.
this is actual other people who have perspectives that I could not even imagine going in on, who are wanting to share with me because I have an audience. And between that and like having other people like Nightwolf who are like, I have Indian mods, I have English mods, I have, whatever. But like that shit is so useful because this is a global platform. Sorry to interrupt with that, but like it's a reminder, I think, of like the really cool shit that you get to see from Twitch, and I'm glad that it's introduced me to cool people like this, and by that I mean you, Nightwolf. But
Yeah.
yeah, keep on going. Sorry to interrupt. I'm
Yeah, no
ADHD
worries.
brain, so
No, we're good. So basically, we were talking about this massive amounts of sexual violence that happened
Yeah.
to Tamils in Sri Lanka. And so we were also talking about the Mulivaikal massacre. So in 2009, those no fire zones that I was talking about, they culminate in basically what is the most brutal massacre of Sri Lankan history, or I think one of the most brutal massacres. And it happens in the town of Mulivaikal, right? So Mulivaikal, did I send you that already? Yeah, I sent it to you. It's in DMs. It's called the
Okay.
Mulivaikal massacre. And basically, roughly 100,000 people died. Over 100,000 people died. We don't actually have a death count on this because the Sri Lankan government has refused to investigate any of it. There have been 3 successful governments since this, and they've all refused to investigate war crimes. So they've just been, they're like, there are some members of like the UN that were like, hey, like we need you to like investigate this shit. And then Sri Lanka was like, nah, no, thank you. We're good. And Isse Priya is one of the most prominent examples of war crimes done to the Tamil women. I don't think you should read some of that stuff on stream, but like you can like show what it says, right?
right.
And it's like insanely disgusting what the the Sri Lankan soldiers say about her as like as they reveal her dead body, because like towards the end of the civil war, there were war crimes that were captured on both the Tamil side and the soldier side, the Sri Lankan soldier side, and they basically like they recorded themselves committing war crimes as like trophies or whatever, and they uploaded it to the internet, right? Like if you
Jesus. Yeah.
yeah, no, like unironically, like that's what they did, right?
What's insane about that, by the way, is that they think that like it's again with like the same type of fascist shit that we were talking about. They feel that people will like agree with them, which is
Yeah, and
insane.
it's like no, that's insane. That's like that's not a like you are.
No
So that's
one is
why
okay with that. Like,
no, but that's why I got super pissed off at that veteran in Sri
right.
Lanka. That's why I got super fucking pissed at that guy. Because, like, there's a good chance that that fucker raped a bunch of Tamil women and killed them. There's a good chance that that piece of shit did that. Right? So that's why I got enraged when I saw that. Because it's like,
No,
no,
for
fuck
sure.
you. You need to sit the fuck out. Like, you piece of shit. Like, you are a fucking war criminal and you're part of the fucking problem that caused this in the first place.
Right.
Your
They're
ass
just
elected.
complaining because
You
their
fucking
finances are being affected. Yeah.
Exactly. You guys are now just getting angry that the Rajapaksas have now touched your crumbs. That's it. That's the only
Right.
reason you fuckers are angry at this point. You're not angry at the war crimes and the genocide and the rapes that they've committed and the mutilations that they've committed against the minority population. You're not angry about that. No, because you did that. You were part of that. You were complicit in that, right?
Right.
Whether it was because you voted for the guys that did this, or if you're an army person, you did this yourself, or your
Because you were
friends
just
did it.
following orders, quote
Yeah, because
unquote.
not follow. No, no, no. There's no shot that they were just following
No, no,
orders,
I
right?
know, but like that's the excuse. I meant that as like
Yeah, I'm
it was
sure.
the same thing. What I bring that up is like you're just following orders was a popular sentiment brought up against the Nazis during Nuremberg. Was we didn't allow them to just say that they were just following orders because it didn't matter. You just followed orders and it ended in 6 million deaths.
Exactly. And you know what's crazy? There was no Nuremberg for Sri Lanka.
No, yeah.
There's nothing like that. Noam Chomsky compared the genocide of what happened to Sri Lanka, of the Sri Lankan Tamils, right? The Tamil genocide. He compared it to the Rwandan genocide. I have to slightly disagree with him on one thing. The thing is, the Rwandan genocide happened, but a member of the marginalized group ended up taking power in Rwanda. Paul Kagame is a member of the Tutsi tribe that was massacred, right? That never happened in Sri Lanka. There has never been a Tamil leader in Sri Lanka to rise and unite all Sri Lankans. That has never happened. The people that committed the worst atrocities of the genocide, right? Those guys were elected to power because of the war crimes they committed shortly thereafter. And because they were elected on the backs of all that, their infinite hubris basically allowed they consolidated power and they made really bad financial economic decisions. And that's basically what ended up happening, right?
Right.
And by the way, just for the record, the new president, Vikramasinghe, right? He's also responsible. He also has blood on his hands as well, because it wasn't just the Rajapaksas that oversaw this, right? Ranil Vikramasinghe was also prime minister during the Civil War. Now, to be fair, he brokered peace agreements between the army and the Tamil Tigers, but he's also implicated in all this as well. He's more like Ranil Vikramasinghe. If Rajapaksas are the Republicans, right? If they're like the Trump style people of Sri Lanka, then Vikramasinghe is like a Joe Biden or an Obama style character, basically.
Very neoliberal.
Basically, a very neoliberal. I mean, the Rajapaksas are also economically very neoliberal, right? I
Right.
mean, like Sri Lanka has been a neoliberal. It's the first country in South Asia to liberalize, right? Despite them being called the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, they're actually the first country to neoliberalize, right? And so basically, what ended up happening was the Ranil Vikramasinghe is also like another leader who was just elected president uh, by the parliament. So the timeline of what happened recently is the country went. So after Mahinda Rajapaksa left, right? Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the Gotabaya Rajapaksa is
Oh, I see. Sorry. The most current troll was 969, which is a part of the Buddhist nationalist movement. Man, this guy's really trying to do his research to be annoying.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm gonna take this moment to go pee. But seriously, like, what the fuck? Like, this person's really putting in their energy real hard into being like a douche.
Dude, not even the correct country though. What the fuck?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
I
it's
mean,
Myanmar.
Yeah, correct religion. Like that's correct religion, but not the correct country.
I love, by the way, ideology, Islamophobia, and religious nationalism. Your ideology is just Islamophobia. God, sometimes Wikipedia is funny. I mean, I'm sure it's real. It's just like to read it in that way. But no, and Kat, you're right. They researched what aloe meant just to go after you. God.
Ideology, racism.
Yeah. Ideology, ethnic cleansing. All right, I'll be right back. I
Political
promise.
policy. Yeah, political policies, genocide.
Exactly. Very classy. All right, guys, I'm going to run the ads. You can talk with Arun.
Yeah.
I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Burger cleansing. Shut the fuck up. All right. Be right back.
Oh shit. What's up, chat? How's it going? Oh god. That's insane. Dude, I swear to God. He's trying to get under my skin. Or I guess he's trying to get under my skin because I'm ethnically Tamil, right? I guess he's trying to do that by saying, Buddhism, right? I guess he's trying to do that. But like, Buddhism in India is a different character than Buddhism in Sri Lanka and Myanmar. Like, Buddhism in India is actually like very good. Like, most of the Buddhists in India are basically like anti-caste advocates. They're anti-caste activists, or like they're people who, well, they're not activists, but like they converted to Buddhism to basically say fuck the caste system. Appreciate you taking the time to talk about this, Arun. Listen, OG Prodigy. Listen, man, or listen. I don't know what your pronouns are, but no, I've been yelling about this for months now. I've been yelling about what's happening in Sri Lanka for months now, and the reason for that is, I feel like they're Buddhist by name. Now, I've been yelling about. I'll address your comment, and I will in a second. No, the reason that I talk about this is because this is like part of what I'm saying, the civil war and the genocide that has happened in Sri Lanka, right? The genocide that's happened in Sri Lanka, the most overlooked part of the entire thing. People don't talk about it that way. And it's because the moment you dig deep into what the Sri Lankan government has done and what kind of stuff they've financed and what kind of stuff they've allowed to happen in their own country, you begin to realize, oh shit, like absolute atrocities have been happening. Instructive for understanding far right politics elsewhere too. Yeah, 100%. This is like we're seeing like what happens when a country is taken over by fascism. Like this is what Sri Lanka is. It's been a fascist country since day one. And I mean that. Like, it has been a fascist country since day one. Since like they got independence from the British, you've seen like what kind of like ethnic pogroms have happened since the 50s against the Tamils and the Muslims of Sri Lanka as well, right? So you see like what the fuck has been going on in this. Like, people just think Sri Lanka is like a paradise like destination, and it is for a lot of those guys. But I don't want to set foot in Sri Lanka as a Tamil person. I don't want to set foot there. Like, I don't feel safe going to Sri Lanka, especially after talking
I'm back,
about all
by the
this.
way.
Oh, I know. Wait, do you have your headphones on?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for
no, I was
asking,
just-
though. Like, most people just keep going off. I'm like, I'm not there yet. But yeah, keep going.
No, I was just telling OG Prodigy, like, I've been yelling about this for like months. And it's because like all the coverage that this has been getting is not adequate. It's not adequate coverage. It's not proper coverage of the entire situation because they only mention like the way Rajapaksa has gotten to power. Like if we're being charitable, right? Some of the better ones are like, oh, the Rajapaksas are considered war heroes, right? Because they were elected on the backs of the Civil War and war crimes, yada, yada, yada. That's about it, right? Not once have I heard the word genocide. Not once. And that's what happened here. A genocide happened here, right? And
Yeah, when you have
like
multiple
anyone that knows,
pogroms, like that's just
no, there were
one is an issue.
multiple ethnic pogroms. Those are the ones that just got press attention. Those were like the ones
Right,
with a high enough death count to matter, right? In the grand
right.
scheme of things. And yeah, Issei Priya is basically I'm gonna try and talk about what happened to her as vaguely as possible, or in the most uh like OG, like look at what like I'll drop the link in chat, but read it if you
Right.
have the stomach. If you have the stomach for it, read it. Right? Read what happened to her. But it's really fucked up and it's disgusting. Um but basically
Yeah, you
so
sent me this link.
Issei Priya is a basically she was a newscast reader, right? She's like an
Wow.
entertainer basically, right? And oh yeah. Basically what happened was she started working for like the hospitals in the north, right? Or she started working for hospitals in the north.
Yeah, before being
And then
raped, tortured, and murdered.
basically she was raped, tortured, and murdered. And then there was a guy, there's an off-camera Sinhala voice is heard in the same video saying to her dead body, by the way, this is her corpse, I would
Classic.
like to fuck I would like to fuck it again. There's also a documentary called Sri Lanka's Killing Fields. I'll drop the name in chat. But
Is
if you
it
have this,
Porcalathiel Odorpu?
no, that's not it.
Okay, because this was a biopic about her.
Porgalatil Orupu. Yeah, it just means like no, it's called Sri Lanka's Killing Fields. That's the name of the
Gotcha.
documentary. Porgalatil Orupu, right? Basically, Porgalatil is like on the battlefield. So flower on the battlefield, basically. That's what that means. Um, basically, let me. Now I'm doubting my own pronunciation. I have to look at it again. Porcalat. I think is was it? Oh,
The Tamil one is
Oh,
roses on the battlefield.
yeah. Porcalatil. Yeah, Porcalatil Orupu. Yeah. Um, the Tamil one is roses on the battlefield. Yeah. Yeah, but roses, flowers, same shit. Um, Sri Lanka's Killing Fields is the name of the documentary I sent, right? And it's a Channel 4 documentary done by the BBC. And it, by the way, we watched this, we quote unquote watched this on stream. We listened to it on stream, right? We basically had to do like the sync thing, like people had to watch the
Watch it
fucking
while
documentary
starting
on.
because you couldn't watch it because of TOS.
Yeah, there's TOS like every other minute. Like there's gore, violence, and just like, and there's obviously like there's like footage of like Sri Lankan soldiers like after they were just done raping the women and you know, literally fucking their corpses, by the way. Like necrophilia and shit.
Let's
Um
and this is not on you because I know what you were trying to get at. But let's refrain from, and I think the word, as much as we hate to hear it, is valid here. But like they weren't fucking anything; they were raping and
raping, yes.
desecrating.
They were, yeah, they were raping a dead body. Yes. Um
Disgusting.
yeah. It's it's, yeah, that if that doesn't like that if that doesn't like get your blood boiling, then like that nothing will, right? That's like
Like, how
that
are you that deranged? I just don't understand that. Like, to have so much hate in your heart for, like, no reason.
no, it's because it's primed. No one is born hating people.
No, it's absolutely, yeah, it's taught.
It's taught. It's primed in these people. It's primed, right? And yeah, that's basic. Like, and the thing is, like the thing is, there's been no justice brought for the Tamils of Sri Lanka. There's never been any. Like, it's gone to the point where like the Sri Lankan Tamils who've settled abroad that have argued for justice, they've given up. Right? They've literally like they've basically were like they basically told us like, what's the point in talking about all this? No one cares and no one's coming for the no one's coming to
No
help
one's
us,
coming
right?
to help us, yeah.
No one's coming to help us. No one cares. What's the point in talking about all this? Right? I've been told like not to talk about this because it's not going to accomplish anything. And all it's going to do is it's going to bring about their trauma again. That's how defeated like a lot of people here are. A lot of people in the West that are refugees are. They're just insanely defeated. They're like, fuck it, it's over, right? There's nothing we can do about it. No one wants to do anything about it, and no one cares,
And the only
right?
thing that they keep with them is, like, they might have a little bit of refuge, but they have themselves probably have family that, like,
Yeah,
are affected.
exactly. Like, and also like I'm not a supporter of the Tamil Tigers, right? But I can see why people are. Because there's no one defending these guys. There's no one
I
defending the
mean, I
Tamils.
feel that same way about Hamas. Like,
Yeah. Well, this is
Hamas
like
is not a good group, but, like, how do you expect people to, like, go with anything else?
exactly. Like I can see why people support them, but like I don't support them myself. I have personal beef with them. Right? That's why like I mean, I make it a point to be like, listen, the Tamil Tigers are war criminals. They had child soldiers, they killed innocent civilians, and they also like you know, they did ethnic cleansing themselves of Muslims on the island, right? I make it a point to be like, listen, I'm not a Tamil Tiger supporter. I have personal beef with them all the time, right? I was on Jason Society's podcast while doing this, and one of our friends of the show basically reached out to their Sri Lankan friend to come and see. And then the Sri Lankan friend basically was talking about what was going on. And I said, oh, yeah, the government is implicated in genocide. It's still doing an occupation of the North and the East. They closed down they closed down the fucking northern Jaffna airport, right? They closed the international airport there. And for that, for simply calling out the war crimes of the Sri Lankan government, he's like, yeah, no, this guy is an LTTE supporter. He's a terrorist.
Really, that's crazy.
Because I'm a Tamil guy. I'm an ethnic Tamil person that is criticizing the Sri Lankan government for war crimes. Therefore, in this guy's head, I must be a terrorist.
I mean,
And he
that's very
basically,
similar to Islamophobia in America.
yeah, I mean, thank God. Like, listen, and this is not to be like, thank God someone else is having the misfortune, right? But like, the thing is, like, actually, I'm not gonna say it. I don't need to spread it anymore. But like, there's I'll tell you in private what like why I'm
Yeah,
like
no worries.
somewhat relieved. Yeah, but like, there's like the situation, believe it or not, could be far worse than it actually is with regards to reputation. But
Yeah.
like, but like that sort of thing. But like the thing is, um, like this just like that's how like justice is a
I mean,
farce at this point, right?
I
Like we
mean, it's
don't.
a farce everywhere.
It's a farce everywhere. 13 years have gone by. The bodies are cold, right? They've disintegrated at this point. There's
And then they're
mass
still
rage.
being labeled terrorists.
Exactly. No, they're like even afterwards, like people were just so after the Civil War, you have Tamils that are just being kidnapped by the government and then just being executed, right? And then
Yeah.
being thrown into mass graves again, right?
Which,
Like
by the way,
you still have that going on, right? And
add
people
to
are locked.
this, which I'm sure is systemic, but sex slavery as well is what I'm reading on here, which I'm sure.
Yep. That's also a thing that happened. Yep. There's also landmines in the northern eastern parts of the country. There's also lots of landmines there as well. So there are parts of the north and the east that are just completely uninhabitable at this point. That are
By the way, just following the outbreak of war, rape was used more frequently by almost entirely Sinhalese Sri Lankan armed forces in an
Sinhalese Sri
attempt
Lankan armed forces. Yes, punish the
to
Tamil.
collectively punish the Tamil population, who were often as seen as being supportive of LTTE, which is, I
Yep.
think, goes exactly to what you were just saying. You yourself being a Tamil person, Tamil dude, as you would like to be referred to, those are your pronouns, Tamil dude, dude plus.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
being a Tamil dude, and saying that like Sri Lanka has done bad things, that makes you,
Yeah.
just like it says here, who are often seen as supportive. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter what you actually believe or not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? Like it doesn't matter that hey, like I don't support I don't support the LTTE, right? They threatened to kill my parents. Like I don't care. Like they don't care about
Well,
that. They don't care that I have
and
personal beef with them. Like
bringing that back up again, and that's, I see what you mean by personal beef, actually, like legit personal beef right there. Sorry, this isn't a drama channel. No, I'm just kidding. But
no, like no, they those guys. So the story behind that is my grandmother used to work for All India Radio, right?
okay,
And basically she used to work for the government radio, and I mentioned that India also did war crimes in Sri Lanka as well against
oh,
the
I'm sure.
Tamils. Because she was a radio host at the time, she basically had to support the Indian invasion into Sri Lanka.
And so the
So
LTTE gave her,
they saw her as a tool of the government, and they were like, well, this bitch better shut up or else we're gonna suicide bomb her family. Like
got you.
that included my like dad as well, my father, right? So they were gonna kill my dad. Like I don't know what happened. They luckily escaped or whatever. But like, yeah,
They
that's
had
like
him on the
actually
list.
they had him on the list. Yeah, exactly. So like my grandmother was like on the hook for being assassinated, right?
And
So
this,
there's a solid chance I would have never been born, by the way, or I would have been born in like
because
a
of the
different.
LTTE,
Exactly.
right? No, and like, again, because obviously, like, and I believe you are, like, I don't know if you are religious, but you are like from a Hindu faith originally, right? Ethnically, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well,
So my parents are very religious. Let's put it that way. They're super
gotcha.
religious. Um, yeah.
I,
That's so
I'm
that's
actually,
there.
you
Go
can
ahead.
talk to me about this later because it's kind of off topic, but it's me more just wanting to ask about Hindu stuff later because of talking about different deities and like how that works. But that's another time. That's more just
Yeah.
like I'm out of curious culturally. But like what I was just bringing up, because I know I did earlier, obviously there's a lot of different feelings between Muslims and Hindus. But like just,
That's yeah.
yeah, but
That's a
not,
whole nother thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing. I don't even want to like, so this may even be viewed as not like a great comparison. I know you won't care, but like I was talking about with like Muslims dealing with Islamophobia in the US, like I know for many it was very much of like trying to prove basically that like, yeah, I'm not in agreement with the Taliban because I'm Muslim. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I know that was like
Like
such a big aspect of like,
when when Muslims try and talk about like U.S. imperialism in like the countries that they come from, and they're branded as like members of the Taliban or like or whatever militant group that they happen, like if they're from Iraq, then they're like, you know, pro American involvement, which is weird because like those groups got funding from, I mean, and this is like the main difference between like the militant groups in the Middle East and the Sri Lankan and sorry, in the LTTE. Um, basically, originally what happened was uh, what happened originally was the LTTE was trained by India, right, to basically be an insurgent group in Sri Lanka, right? But
Hmm.
then because the LTTE was no longer useful to India, India switched sides, and especially after
Talking about
uh,
neoliberalism.
well, not just that, but like the Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated by the LTTE, who was the prime minister of India. So prime minister was assassinated via suicide bomb by the LTTE.
Bro, this is
Um,
why Indian people say don't talk about Indian politics, by the way. As I'm discovering, it's
y-
insane.
yeah, no, like, but like I figured like no one else is talking about it.
No, it's good. I
I
just
might as well take that shit on, right?
no,
Head
I'm
on.
just saying, like, I even know, like, from someone that was very mainstream, and that's Hassan Minhaj, or Minhaj. He talked a lot about that, about like how his family were like, you can't talk about this. Why are you talking about this? And that's just Indian politics, not even bringing in Sri Lanka or anything like that. But like, I know, like, culturally, that's been a big thing too, is that like I don't know, just like anything that I've seen from India, just in general, the subcontinent. I know we were talking about Sri Lanka, but just from the subcontinent in general, whether it be Bollywood or like politics, it's so like there's so many ethnicities, so many cultures. Like
It's because they're post-colonial states. That's the reason, right? That's why
that
like this
makes a
stuff
lot of
is hard
sense,
to
actually.
because they're post-colonial states. The borders are completely arbitrary. I mean, are almost entirely arbitrary, right? I mean, obviously there's I mean, there's obvious reasons why the borders were drawn that way, right? But I mean, it was drawn largely on religious divisions, right?
Right.
But when you're talking about like these sorts of areas, like the whole idea of like India being one unitary thing is a
That's
ridiculous notion.
yeah.
It's never been that way. It's always been it's been several kingdoms. Like
Yeah.
when you think of India, you have to think of Europe. But going back to Sri
Yeah.
Lanka for a second,
No,
right?
I'm sorry. Like, again, if I'm ever deviating, it's because of my interest and my ADHD. So
No, it's fine. I mean, we can come on. I can come
no,
on and
yeah,
talk about
we can
Indian
talk about
politics.
that. We can talk about it personally. We can talk about it online later. So, but please keep on directing the conversation. If I'm ever distracted, it's because I'm ADHD as fuck and am hyper focusing on certain things.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. But basically, like, so there's just been absolute massive like pogroms and rapes and genocide and mutilation that have been happening towards the Tamil people on Sri Lanka for a very, very long time. And this is probably like the one I feel like so the reason I bring this up is the within the protesters were fascists, the very same people who like backed the Rajapaksa family during the Civil War, right? Like like last year, right? The Gotabaya Rajapaksa guy, um, the Rajapaksa, like though he Gotabaya Rajapaksa basically put a Buddhist monk in charge of a a committee of legal reforms, basically, and that Buddhist monk is like openly genocidal. He's
Yeah, we were
like no,
talking about like the genocidal monks here.
yeah, that dude was Jnana something. I forgot his name. Uh Jnana I think that's his name. I think yeah, Jnana. So Galagoda Ate Jnana, this psycho.
Okay.
Let me give you let me put it in the chat.
Yeah, do it.
Galagoda Atta Nyanasara. I would not be surprised if that troll finds this guy's name at some point or another.
Oh, he's probably going along with us right now, by the way.
Yeah, he's probably gonna come in with Yusta instead of
he's working.
Gotabaya.
By the way,
Gotabaya. Yeah, I know. I say Gota is a swear word for the reason I sometimes go back and forth. I intentionally say Gotabaya Rajapaksa because Gota is a swear word. It means fuck in Tamil.
Gotcha.
So, but his name is Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Can I just teach me the one that says fuck when I say his name? I like that one.
Gota.
Gotabaya.
Gota is, I mean, Gota is just one variant of the word. Like the other one is say what the really fast.
Guata.
What the, and then overemphasize the first syllable.
Guata.
Yep, what the, yep.
Wata.
That's
it.
fuck in Tamil, yeah.
Got it. Ooh, I know some Tamil now. I know how to say fuck in Tamil. Based.
Are there any, how many syllables are there for word? No, they're the same. No, Nightwolf. They're the same word. It's the slang that's like corrupting it, right? It's the same word, right? It comes from the word or, right? Like that's where it comes from, but like because it's like the spoken Tamil language and the written Tamil language are so drastically different from one another.
I'm sure. Oh, by the way, hold on. Look at my screen real quick. I wanted this for our little troll. This is what it is. I've done the research. I've looked at the facts. I've analyzed the hard data, and my conclusion is that you're way more mad than I am right now. This guy is working at like light speed, like looking up Wikipedia history. He's learning more about like Tamil history and Sri Lankan history just to be an asshole. Like,
yeah,
he's learning out of spite.
That's a good point. Like that's actually a fantastic point. That's awesome. Like, listen, I'm glad we could be of service.
I'm glad you could learn.
I'm glad you could
the data's in, by the way. You're way more mad than we are.
Dude, just wait until the dude finds out about Hindu nationalists. Oh, they already did. Mm-hmm. No, you missed it.
This guy's gonna learn like all like South Asian history by the time that he's done being a troll. I love it.
This dude is like he's learning. He's doing my job for me.
He's literally prompting. Yeah.
He's
doing great work. This is actually like our biggest fan.
Yeah, unironically.
Any means.
Yeah, it's like how Steven Crowder is like fucking Sam Cedar's biggest fan. Like,
seriously,
obviously, like they're obviously hate watching, but like it's great.
No, dude, that's like such an amazing. Isn't it crazy though? Like, you're at a point, and you're feeling it now too. And it's just very bizarre. Like, I'm so very used to turning on this camera and doing this thing now. Like, it's just second nature to me. And that's a very interesting place to be. Then it becomes more about like other people interacting with you and like recognizing that like you have people like this that come in and care so much about what you say and being contrarian and being whatever else that they'll spend time on you. It's very weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you've seen it though. Like, this guy's been following around. You've seen it plenty. This guy puts a lot of work in a lot of us. It's very fascinating.
I mean, like, I'll give him credit. Like, I'll give him credit for trying to be way more racist. Like, he's trying super hard to be racist.
Did you see the recent one, most current one? Tigers work for the British Crown.
Oh, I saw that. Which is like
you already talked about how you don't like the Tigers.
No,
too. Like,
no. Here's the thing. That name is
True Cat.
No, that name is like it's a common like Sri Lankan nationalist talking point, by the way. Right? That name, like, you have to, like,
This guy's
Like,
doing
if
his
you're
deep
to-
research.
Yeah, like you don't come into my stream using casteist slurs without actually doing the research.
Yeah,
Like you
dude.
have to know.
This is like level
Like
10
like
racism.
this is like this is like layered. This is like level 9 racism, right?
Like, how do you? Yeah, he like his power levels are over 9,000. Like, how do you get to that point?
Yeah, like you have to try super hard in order to like do that. Like you have to like put in the work in order to do
Dude,
that. And
isn't
it's
it
like,
cool having haters?
dude, like, but that's why I like don't get mad when these guys like come
No,
in.
you
It's
should
like,
just feel great. Like
know,
they're
it's
doing
hilarious.
the work for you.
No, it's fucking hilarious. I mean, like, and by the way, the thing is like, I'm very unusual. I have an unusual number of mods on my channel, right? For a streamer of my
sure.
size.
I mean, you're a
Like,
brown dude that's South Asian, like who has a
and
lot
that's
to
talking
say.
about Indian politics, no less,
Yeah.
right?
No, like we were talking about, like that's often just viewed as like bad. I do know that much.
Yeah, like I'm going into a fucking minefield, basically, right? But like, yeah, like you think that Nightwolf here is not gonna like Nightwolf was in that same stream clapping those guys.
Oh yeah, he was
Like,
ahead of
you're-
it.
It's at the highest volume.
He added it like every single like things I would never know as a slur. Like
Oh yeah,
to
100%, 100%. Like I'm hoping. Listen, I'm hoping that fucker comes in with like Madrasi again. I just want to see him be like, "Yo, Madrasi food is poo" or whatever. Like, please do that. Like,
Anyways, though,
also research your school. What the fuck?
that's weird. That might be directed at me. I know a lot about my school, and I talk about how it's shit all the time.
Ah, that's probably directed at you then.
Yeah, it's probably directed at me because Columbia, literally, I mean, the nuclear bomb was like developed at Columbia.
Oh, by Oppenheimer, right?
It was called the
Yeah.
Manhattan Project because it was happening in Manhattan on the Upper West Side, is where they were doing the research.
Yep. I took an entire class on the Manhattan Project.
Yeah, no, so that was at my school. And also my school does a lot of shit that I don't agree with, such as its support to Israeli government projects. And the fact that it owns about half of New York City as a landlord.
Oh, 100%. Tigers, they followed me.
Nice.
Oh, thank God, Posadabot. Oh, thank God. He's banned immediately.
Anyways,
Oh,
though,
God.
let's get going because I
So
need
let's go.
not to cut you off, but I want to get this through because I got other stuff to do. But
Yeah,
I also
we'll
we took a big break there, I think, because we got distracted by our boy, our biggest
Right.
fan.
Our biggest fan. So let's get back to this guy for a second. So Yanasara is the guy that he put in power to basically like head legal reforms. And this dude is like virulently Islamophobic, right? He's so like virulently Islamophobic and racist that he started beating up cops and stuff. Like a lot of the fascists are like against the cops because they're not brutal enough towards minorities. And like, by the way, the Sri Lankan cops, like you cannot commemorate Mulivaikal in Sri Lanka without the cops coming in and cracking your skulls, right? You can't commemorate that massacre that happened in Mulivaikal
You can't even
because
like.
what happened?
Got you. This
Yeah.
massacre.
Yes, this massacre, right? You can't commemorate that, right? Like you can, but it like you're
Your speech on the matter is it's shushed up, kind of like the I can't think of the capital in China. Why can't I think? Was that part of the what movement was
Like-
that part of? I'm just like the suppression of
Tiananmen.
speech, Tiananmen Square, yeah.
Tiananmen Square, yeah.
But like the suppression of speech of a cultural event that had happened. A drastic,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't
terrible
say
one.
that. Like again, Sri Lanka is not like nearly as sophisticated in this regard, right?
Okay.
It's not nearly as like with when you're dealing with South Asia, like you gotta. It's basically like a lot of the stuff that happens in South Asia is just mask off, right?
Gotcha.
Like because like you'll have people on Twitter in Hindi just literally like calling for like just literally saying like, "Yo, we need to have a genocide."
That
You have
was
people that
happening with
literally,
Myanmar with Facebook, right?
yeah, like you have people like, yeah, you have psychos that are like insane nationalists on Twitter that say stupid shit like that, right? And they get away with it, right? And so like so the even as this economic crisis was unfolding, the Rajapaksa family tried to blame the minorities of Sri Lanka and like they tried to blame the Tamils and the Muslims. And the other thing to keep in mind is that Sri Lanka largely relies on tourism. And ever since the Easter bombings that happened in Sri Lanka, right? The tourism industry in Sri Lanka was basically just
I
killed,
remember that.
and then COVID just did it completely in basically.
I remember these. Yeah, these Easter bombings.
Right. Yeah. So that's what basically killed. That's what basically killed the. That's basically what killed the tourism in Sri Lanka, and because there's no money coming into Sri Lanka as well, and because like they
Their
slashed
biggest
taxes
exports with like rice and things like you were mentioning, this economic
and tech
mismanagement.
and textiles as well, but like the textile industry is like trying to compete with like Bangladesh, and like you're not going to compete with Bangladesh on textiles. It's not a thing, right? Because there's far
Right.
more deregulation in Bangladesh than in Sri Lanka as well, right? But there's really not much of an export coming from Sri Lanka basically, which is why there's no dollars going into Sri Lanka, and that's
I
why
see.
in
Okay.
inflation is like skyrocketing, right?
And we were talking
So
about like people like cab drivers don't even have enough like they aren't even able to fill their cabs with gas. Their
yeah,
tuk-tuks, right?
they ran out of petrol, yeah. They ran out of gas and they ran out of medical supplies, they ran out of like they just ran out of everything, right? Because again, there's no dollars to buy any of it. There's no dollars to buy any of it, you know?
So I'm sure some of the protesters like are probably just like working everyday people too.
Yeah, so again,
It's
it's
more of
not
like the
like
soldiers.
yeah, so I want to be clear. Like a lot of the people that were protesting are not like Nazis or anything. I want to be clear about that, right? It's not like
Yeah.
I think that's not what I think is happening, right? The originally when the protesters started out, it was genuinely like a broad working class coalition of every ethnic background, every religion, everyone was in was together, right? But later on, what happened was the upper like the petite bourgeoisie and the fascists, right? Or I guess both of them are the same thing.
Yeah.
Those guys, uh, those guys started joining in on the movement because they were also getting fucked by the Rajapaksa government, and their crumbs were being touched because of how out of control it was, right?
I'm listening, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And they're going for
Oh
it,
yeah.
bro. They're going for it.
Okay. Yeah. No. I'm sorry. I just got sidetracked a little bit.
You're good.
Yeah. And then what ended up happening was, uh, yeah. So genocide happens. That gets put on hold because of this economic situation. And then recently, what happened was, so Sri Lanka loses all of it. Like its foreign reserves are completely dried up, right?
And what ends up happening is the government completely shuts down. It is completely shut down. All functions are shut down. And this is like what happened like while I was in India, right? So, um, so few days after government is completely shut down, protesters storm the presidential palace and the prime ministerial palace. And you've seen videos of them just like chilling and vibing in the fucking pool, getting a good workout in. You've seen that shit, right?
Yeah, I know that they like took over the whole area.
Right. They took over the entire area, right? So that basically is what ended up happening, right? And then, so as a result of that, the Gotabaya Rajapaksa is forced to step down. So that gets rid of basically the last of the major Rajapaksas in the government. And then Vikramasinghe, Ranil Vikramasinghe, whose party has been like a massive player in Sri Lanka, he steps down as prime minister. But then a few days later, Parliament holds an election, like not like a general election, but just like among themselves. And they elect the previous prime minister, like who just stepped down as president. So Ranil Vikramasinghe, who was just prime minister and who basically did nothing as the economy was like collapsing for the past several decades or so, he did nothing. They elect him to be president, right? So he's now the president, and some random dude is like the prime minister of Sri Lanka now.
Okay.
Yeah, Dinesh Gunawardena.
And so basically, and I hate to do it like this because I do want to, and honestly, this is something I feel like we can even probably have another night on even more and talk about this more.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you got a lot to say about it. I'm glad that I do have you to talk about it. Honestly, without getting distracted, we should try and do it while playing Elden Ring, but we know how well that goes.
Yeah.
But where we're at now, it sounds like, is what I'm getting is there like continued more violence against Tamils under this current admin, but now protests did happen, but like, is there any real power exchange?
No. Not really. No. There
This is
unless
just
we
more
have
of the
actual
same, right?
it's more of the same. Like this guy, like Vikramasinghe he's been prime minister 5 times.
Got you.
And by the way, so we were talking about Black July. Ranil Vikramasinghe, his uncle was his Ranil Vikramasinghe's uncle was Jayawardena. He was the president during Black July. So he comes from a large political family as well, the Vijayawardena family, right? And then what's even crazier is that the opposition leader, Sajit Premadasa, his father was the prime minister. His father was the prime minister of his father was the prime minister during Black July. So none of the actual like major leaders in power are fucking appealing. Like there's genuine things that need to change within Sri Lanka, and that includes devolution of power from the center. Because right now, for example, the way things are like, basically the president appoints the governor of the provincial governments, right?
Got you.
And
Okay.
the governor holds all the executive power. So it's not like India where the governor is basically a figurehead for the most part with some executive powers. And the chief minister, which is the head of the legislature, basically like the state level prime minister is the one with all the power. That's not it at all, right? It's basically like the governor is the executive and the chief minister is the head of the legislature. And that's it, right? That's the separation of powers that they have going on in Sri Lanka, right? So there's genuine devolution of powers that need to happen in Sri Lanka, and there needs to be genuine autonomy given back to people. And there needs to be a genuine separation between monastery and state, right? Unless some of those underlying
So-
issues that have happened for decades is addressed, Sri Lanka is headed towards the same problems that it's been headed towards for a long time.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to stop you because I think, first off, we've been at this for about 2 hours and 44 minutes. Obviously, there were interruptions. That being said, I already learned a lot today. And I'm honestly thankful. Thank you for coming by again after, first off, let me just say this. You've been trying to get on here other than playing games and stuff, which that just happened to be like how we got to get to know each other. But to get on here to speak your piece because you really fucking care. Also learned a bunch, and that's from Prodigy, by the way, who like knows everything. But like you really been working your ass off to get out here and to like get your word out, and like you obviously have a lot to say on this.
I mean, I feel weird getting thanks for all this because I'm not doing anything special.
But you're
and it's
teaching. Teaching is special though. Like, let me take a word out for all the thank you for the shout out for Arun. Please go follow him if you have not already. Please definitely go give Arun a follow. He's really going out there trying to speak his piece, which there is importance to that though. Like, I don't have to give you things to just say like what you're providing is itself valuable, especially when you're like talking about like how you obviously had like familial connections to that too. You know, these are things that are highly glossed over that's not going to be taught to us by like any other ways, and that's sometimes the beauty of things like this. And the beauty that I get as a privileged white boy, girl, whatever the fuck, I don't give a shit, for like being able to like, I do get a lot of privilege in that regard as a white person though on this platform. You know what I mean? Like,
No, I got you.
It is a little bit easier, at least, you know, like I might be like Latino or Latina or whatever, but like I'm very white passing no matter what. You know what I mean? But not only that, like you bring in like a lot of knowledge that of the world that like most people don't hear about. Like I told you, like most of my knowledge comes from an art history course in college, at a college that like most people cannot afford, and I know like the scratches of some history of it. You offer something through your diversity, as corny as it may be, but like things that you know that like I will never like have known. So that is like something to be grateful for. So you should take the thanks. Say you come from a leftist edge. I'm curious, you're open to intellectual debate. Depends on what we're debating.
Bro, 8 Ball, we were kind of in the middle of something.
Yeah. You were sorry, wrong moment for the mood.
It's like I love that you come from a leftist edge. I'm curious. Are you open to intellectual debate?
Sorry, we got to give you some shit, 8 Ball. Stick around. We might be able to be open to some intellectual debate. Debate perv. Depends on what we're debating. Pick the topic. Oh boy, hold on. Give me a moment here. We've been talking about some very serious other political topics. Sometimes I'm open to discussion. Sometimes I'm not.
We've been talking about Sri Lanka. We've been talking about Sri Lanka. You want to talk about South Asian politics?
Yeah. But that all said though, like I do think like, look, I mean, you only have your own perspective to give. But like, that's valuable, bro. Like I understand that where you're coming from. You're like, oh, like I feel weird getting thanks, but like, look at all these other people that felt like they wouldn't have known about this without you. So your voice is meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, that's precisely the reason that I'm doing this in the first place. That's the main reason I'm doing this. Because if I wasn't like, the sad truth is like, if especially in like a place like Twitch where all the politics that's being talked about is
especially American politics.
Yeah, it's very American centric, right? Like so much so that people like when trolls come in, they don't what's his face?
They
The
don't
guy
do
that
the
was just
research as our biggest fan, John Gazebo.
not John Gazebo, not that guy. The other guy, the guy that Adric, like the guy that bullies Adric, right?
Oh, MRU.
Are you? Thank you. That guy. When he came into my channel, he didn't know what the fuck to do because I wasn't talking about like American politics. I was talking
Yeah,
about I was talking about Sri Lankan politics, and he's like, I don't know what the fuck to do here. Like,
yeah,
America number one. Like, that's
yeah.
all he could say. He's like, America's the best country. That's all he could say. And he was way out of his depth, right? And so no, but going back to that, it's like it's so American centric. Twitch is so American centric, and it's like it's
Absolutely.
understandable. It's like in America, right? And then I'm not like dogging on Twitch for that, right? But it's like the thing is like uh I figured like if I don't talk about this, no one else will. No one will bring this to light. No one will talk about this because you're not because and it's just empirically true. Like you go anywhere and like the most that you hear about all this is war crimes happen in Sri Lanka,
Right.
you know, like
That's a country
rest
far away from me. That means
that's
nothing.
it's brown people killing brown people. Like I
Yeah.
guess like I don't know how to yeah, and it like you see it in the differences between the coverage between Ukraine and Russia, which again,
Oh, absolutely.
like that's super important. Like don't get it twisted. It's not like saying like you
No,
should give
one
Ukraine and Russia
atrocity
coverage.
isn't like better than the other.
Exactly. Like it's not like, oh well, why don't you take care like why don't you talk about like what's going on in Yemen? Like,
We can
yeah,
worry
no,
about more than one thing at a time.
exactly, right? But the thing is this isn't worried no one's worrying about this, right? It's like people have
People
gone
feel like
on
they can't even talk about it anymore because why? Why would you?
yeah, people like again, Sri Lankans have told me to like just shut up about this. And it's like, well, first of all, like I get where you're coming from, and I know it's not my trauma to claim, but it's not about me claiming trauma, you know what I mean? It's more like listen, people need to know about this, and it's horrifying to hear. Like the Tamil genocide is very horrifying to hear, and it's very horrifying to see and when you see it play out, right? And
Hmm.
if you don't see what's happening here, right? Then this is doomed to repeat elsewhere,
Yeah.
right? And even in Sri Lanka itself, right? If they don't learn that, hey, like majoritarian politics is bad. Well, majoritarian in this case is like fascistic politics. It's not
I
like
am a ball.
representation, right? Yeah.
I was in the
Yeah.
Navy. Sorry, I'm just answering chat real quick.
It's like if you don't learn from these mistakes, if you don't learn that fascism is an ever-consuming idea and anyone is susceptible to it, right? Like if like you can grab normies to your side relatively quickly, right? Unless you are actively anti-racist or you're actively anti-fascist, right? It's easy to get people swept up because the people that voted the Rajapaksas to power were regular people.
Oh, of course, as always. There's
Yeah,
a
they
really
won.
great
The like the Rajapaksas were voted into power.
there's a really great podcast from Behind the Bastards, and they talk about like the little Nazis being like the little people, more of like the people that looked away, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And you know, another great, and I do need to like, I don't mean to shoo you out, but like I said, but I do want to talk about this more. But like along with like kind of what we were talking about with fascists, there's like a saying that's like, what do you have when you have like a table of 10 people and one of them's a fascist?
You have 10 fascists.
Exactly. And it's just like the same type of thing. Like the people that like look away are the people enabling the same bullshit. Capitalism is annoying, A-ball. Hi, Safik. Welcome in. But give me a moment, A-Ball. I'll talk to you about it. I'll talk to you even about it from a veteran's perspective. How about that? But I want to like have a part 2 to this because I feel like you have a lot of like, I don't want to just say like suggestions, but like analysis of like where things are going and where they could improve.
Right. Yeah, we can do this again sometime. I'd love to come on in and talk about this for sure.
No, of course, man. Thank you for coming back, especially after I wasn't feeling well. I felt really bad yesterday about leaving you like that.
Yeah, no worries.
But thank you so much. And I want to talk to you more about this because you really like, you did a really good job like conveying it. I want to like sit down maybe with you and then we can like make a timeline and even present it better.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. And thank you, Prodigy, for the shout out. But no, thank you, Arun. Seriously, I think that would be really cool. We could like make a timeline and talk about like that way. It could almost even be like maybe a little bit more of a, I hate to commodify it like this, but like a podcast. That way, like we know what we're like going to talk about going in, and that way I can prepare questions and stuff for you too.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be a great idea.
All right, bud.
But yeah,
I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
talk to you soon, and
Let's
maybe
play
we
some
can
Elden Ring soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just about to say that.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
I'll be on maybe later, so let me know if you're around. Have a good night,
Will
bud.
do. You too. Have a good night.
Thank you again, by the way, for Arun for doing that. I felt super bad after last night because I was like not feeling well. I'm really glad that he came on and talked about this today. Veteran, also, we're going to talk. I wouldn't do it unless we're on equal ground Discord. Maybe another time. But we just had a long, lengthy political talk. We're going to go into just chatting. You're welcome to stick around. You can talk in the Discord. And maybe we can talk and have a little discussion later. But I've also had random moments where people come on. No, also, by the way, give it up to Arun, by the way, who has COVID right now. I don't know if y'all knew that, by the way. Arun has COVID. And he was going off. So please give it up for him. Again, shout out. You saw him. Go give him a follow if you aren't already. Guy has a lot to say and a lot that we don't know. And I think that's really worth it.